whispers of the peasant village. The wind moved gently through the golden fields, brushing the tall wheat stalks like careful fingers trailing across fabric. Just beyond the edge of the farmland, where the earth softened into mossy paths and stone-lined brooks, the village of Eldermead slumbered in the hush of early evening. Smoke curled lazily from chimneys, rising into the amber sky where the sun hovered low, warm and distant. Thatched rooftops glowed in the fading light, and shutters creaked gently as a soft breeze passed through. Chickens clucked lazily in their coops. A black cat sat perched on a fence post, blinking slowly at the horizon. The hush of the hour was not silence, but something deeper, a kind of quiet made from worn hands, slow meals, and the scent of wood smoke and thyme. An old woman named Elda sat on her stool beneath the linden tree in the village square. Her basket of wool rested beside her, half forgotten, as she watched the shadows stretch along the cobblestones. Children's laughter drifted faintly from behind her, echoing off stone walls and wooden doors as they chased each other through the fading light. From the baker's cottage came the final sweet scent of warm rye bread, and in the distance, the rhythmic creak of a wheelbarrow being pulled home signaled that the day's labor had come to a gentle end. Windows glowed softly with lamplight, and the soft hush of voices inside the cottages grew quieter, words drifting like mist into the twilight air. Down by the brook, where a tiny wooden bridge crossed over clear water, a boy named Tom knelt to gather smooth stones. He whispered to himself as he worked, arranging them carefully in patterns on the grass. His mother, Mira, watched from the garden nearby, her apron dusted with flour and her hands still smelling faintly of rosemary. The sky deepened to blue, then to a soft violet. One by one, stars began to bloom in the darkness overhead, quiet and watchful. And so, beneath the vast canopy of stars and the watchful moon, Eldermead rested deeply, cradled in the timeless embrace of earth, water, and sky. The dawn's first light brushed gently across the rolling hills surrounding Eldermead, softening the edges of the night and bathing the village in a warm, golden hue. The air was crisp and filled with the scent of dew-kissed grass and blooming wildflowers. A fresh beginning whispered on the breeze. Slowly, the village stirred. The faint clatter of wooden wheels on cobblestones, the soft murmur of voices greeting the morning, and the gentle rustle of leaves mingled in a quiet symphony of life awakening. Smoke curled upward from chimneys as fires were rekindled, and the comforting aroma of baking bread began to drift through the air. Mira stepped onto her porch, breathing deeply, the cool morning air filling her lungs. Nearby, Tom chased a fluttering butterfly, his laughter light and unburdened. Elder Tom, leaning on his sturdy staff, made his slow way toward the village square where Elda arranged fresh bundles of lavender and thyme, their soothing scents blending with the crisp morning. The river sparkled under the early sun, its steady song a calming presence as it flowed gently past the fields and meadows. Birds flitted from branch to branch, their melodies weaving through the peaceful air. The village, wrapped in the embrace of the new day, moved with a slow and steady rhythm, rooted in the land, connected by shared stories, and held together by quiet strength. And so, Eldermead welcomed the dawn once more, its heart steady, its spirit calm, ready to live again in harmony with earth, water, and sky. The cool night air wrapped gently around the village of Eldermead as the moon rose higher, casting silvery light over rooftops and fields alike. The river mirrored the glow, its smooth surface broken only by the occasional ripple of a fish or the soft splash of a waterfowl settling for rest. The night was calm, with only the faint rustle of leaves and the distant call of an owl punctuating the stillness. Inside the cottages, hearth fires burned low, their embers glowing softly like tiny stars in the darkness. Families rested under thick quilts woven from sheep's wool, their breaths slow and even in peaceful sleep. Outside, the linden tree stood sentinel, its leaves shimmering in the moonlight, a silent guardian watching over the dreams of the village. Mira lay quietly beside Tom, her hand resting gently on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. She closed her eyes and listened to the river's distant song, a melody that seemed to reach through time itself, soothing and eternal. Jonan, resting nearby, dreamed of warm days in the fields, of golden grains waving under endless skies. Elder Tom's chair creaked softly as he settled into it by the fire, his eyes closing as memories drifted through his mind like the smoke curling upward. He recalled the faces of friends long gone, the seasons of harvest, the simple joys and quiet struggles that had shaped his years. The village was alive in his heart, a living story told through time. Outside, the fireflies danced in gentle arcs, their tiny lights flickering like floating lanterns. The soft murmur of the river continued, a steady companion in the night, carrying the secrets of the land and the hopes of its people onward through the quiet hours. As dawn approached, a faint glow began to touch the eastern sky, promising the return of light and the beginning of another day in Eldermead, a day woven from the same threads of peace, labor, and love that had carried the village through countless nights before. Meals were prepared over open fires, the aroma of stews and freshly baked bread filling the air. Families gathered around wooden tables, sharing stories and laughter, the simple act of breaking bread binding them together in a quiet fellowship. The river continued its endless journey, winding through fields and forests, carrying the dreams and memories of Eldermead far beyond the valley. Its gentle song was a lullaby and a promise, a reminder of life's steady flow through time and change. As afternoon softened into evening, the sky blazed with hues of gold and rose. Shadows stretched long across the village, and a cool breeze began to stir the leaves. The scent of blooming night jasmine drifted through the air, sweet and intoxicating, mingling with the warmth of wood smoke and the earthy perfume of freshly turned soil. Children's laughter faded into quiet as families gathered around hearth fires. The gentle flicker of flames cast dancing shadows on the walls, and the murmur of voices grew soft and low. Stories were told, of harvests past, of dreams and wishes whispered into the night. Elder Tom sat beneath the linden tree, his eyes reflecting the flickering light of lanterns hung nearby. His thoughts wandered through the seasons, recalling faces and places, the threads of countless lives woven together in the tapestry of the village. Outside, the river glistened under the moon's silver gaze, its surface smooth and calm. Fireflies blinked in lazy arcs above the grasses, their soft glow a gentle counterpoint to the stars scattered across the sky. As night deepened, the village fell into peaceful slumber. The soft breathing of sleepers mingled with the rustle of leaves and the murmur of flowing water. Dreams drifted gently, carried on the currents of time, weaving a quiet promise of renewal and rest. Beneath the vast expanse of stars, Eldermead lay cradled in the embrace of earth and sky, safe, serene, and timeless. Nearby, the tall grasses swayed gently, touched by the morning breeze that carried the mingled fragrances of pine, moss, and wildflowers. The soft buzz of bees flitting from blossom to blossom added a delicate undertone to the village's waking melody. Above, a hawk soared silently, its shadow fleeting over the patchwork quilt of fields and forests stretching into the horizon. In the village square, Elder Tom shuffled slowly toward the linden tree that stood proudly at the center, its broad branches sheltering generations of memories. He paused beneath its shade, running a weathered hand over the rough bark, feeling the quiet strength that had supported so many seasons. The soft rustling of leaves above was like a whispered conversation between earth and sky, a timeless dialogue carried on the breeze. Elda was already at her market stall, arranging bundles of freshly gathered herbs, lavender, thyme, chamomile, all tied with strands of flax and ribboned with care. Her fingers moved deftly, guided by years of practice and love for the earth's gifts. The gentle scent of dried herbs mingled with the morning air, drawing neighbors and travelers alike to her stall as they began their daily routines. As the sun climbed higher, the village came alive with subtle sounds, the soft clatter of wooden wheels on stone, the rhythmic pounding of the blacksmith's hammer shaping iron, the low murmur of voices exchanged in greeting and barter. Children chased one another along the lanes, their laughter clear and bright, weaving through the steady hum of daily life. Mira and Jonan moved together in the garden behind the cottage, their hands careful as they tended rows of herbs and vegetables. Each seed planted was a promise, each sprout a quiet miracle nurtured by patient care and hope. The soil was soft and warm beneath their fingers, rich with the essence of seasons past and the promise of harvests yet to come. As midday approached, the village settled into a comfortable rhythm. Would awaken the world once more. The first tendrils of dawn began to weave through the heavy curtains of Myra's small cottage, painting the room in soft hues of pale rose and amber. The air was still cool and crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and blooming wildflowers that clung to the edges of the village. Outside, the river whispered gently as it wound its way through the valley, its steady murmur a constant companion to the slow unfolding of morning. Mira lay quietly, her breath even and calm, as the gentle light played upon the wooden beams of the ceiling. The warmth of the hearth had faded to a faint glow overnight, leaving a coolness that mingled with the scent of lavender from the bundle resting on the windowsill. As the birds began their morning chorus, a soft rustling stirred at the edge of the garden. Tom, already awake, tiptoed through the dew-soaked grass, his bare feet brushing the cool blades with tender care. Outside, the village of Eldermead slowly began to stir. The cottages, with their thick stone walls and thatched roofs, seemed to sigh as sunlight crept along the cobblestone paths. Smoke from freshly lit hearths rose in delicate spirals, weaving upward to mingle with the morning mist that lingered in the low fields beyond. The scent of burning wood mixed with the faint aroma of fresh bread baking in ovens, promising comfort and sustenance for the day ahead. Down by the riverbank, Jonan crouched quietly beside the flowing water, dipping his hands into its cool embrace. The river's current rippled around his fingers, steady and unhurried, carrying with it the songs of distant places and long-forgotten stories. As he gazed into the clear depths, the sunlight caught the scales of darting fish, scattering points of silver like scattered stars beneath the surface. Horses shifted gently in their stalls, and the village dog lay curled beside the baker's hearth, its steady breathing blending with the crackling fire. As the hours passed, the night deepened and the world grew still. Every stone, every leaf, every breath seemed to pause in perfect harmony with the slow, steady heartbeat of Eldermead. Dreams drifted softly through the cottages, carrying the hopes and memories of those who called this place home. And beneath the vast canopy of stars, wrapped in the gentle embrace of earth, water, and sky, the village rested, safe, serene, and at peace. The night wore on gently, a quiet guardian over the peaceful village of Eldermead. The cool breeze whispered through the trees, carrying with it the soft rustle of leaves and the faint scent of blooming night flowers. Above, the stars shone steadily, their light shimmering like distant lanterns guiding wandering souls. In the stillness, the river sang its timeless lullaby, flowing softly past moss-covered stones and under wooden bridges worn smooth by countless footsteps. Its melody wove through the night air, wrapping the village in a blanket of calm and continuity. Within the cottages, dreams blossomed, woven from memories of sun-dappled fields, the laughter of children, and the quiet strength found in shared days and restful nights. Mothers hummed lullabies in their sleep, and fathers' brows relaxed as peaceful thoughts settled upon them. The animals, too, breathed deeply in the night's embrace, their gentle rhythms echoing the slow heartbeat of the land. Under the ancient linden tree, a solitary firefly danced, its glowing light pulsing softly like a heartbeat. The village square, bathed in silver moonlight, held the quiet promise of another day soon to dawn, a day woven from the threads of life, hope, and belonging. And so, in the heart of Eldermead, the night continued its gentle watch, guarding dreams and cradling rest until the first blush of morning light. The twilight deepened slowly, casting a velvety cloak of purples and blues across the village of Eldermead. The linden tree stood tall and silent in the village square, its broad leaves rustling softly as a gentle breeze whispered through the air. The subtle scent of lavender and thyme drifted on the night wind, mingling with the earthy aroma of damp soil and wood smoke. In the cottages, lamps flickered softly, their warm light spilling through windows onto cobblestone streets. Inside, families gathered close to their hearths, sharing the quiet comfort of the day's end. The soft murmur of voices, mingled with laughter and the occasional creak of wooden floors, wove a gentle lullaby that settled over the village like a tender embrace. Mira sat by the window of her small cottage, the fabric of her shawl wrapped tightly around her shoulders as she watched the stars begin to sparkle in the deepening sky. Her thoughts drifted like the clouds above, gentle and slow, carried on the steady rhythm of the night. Tom, curled in a woolen blanket nearby, breathed softly in sleep, his chest rising and falling in peaceful time. Elder Tom made his way slowly along the village paths, leaning on his sturdy wooden staff. His footsteps were quiet on the soft earth, each one measured and sure. He paused beneath the ancient oak near the river, feeling the rough bark beneath his fingers, and listened to the gentle babble of water as it flowed steadily past stones smoothed by countless seasons. Near the riverbank, fireflies blinked softly, their tiny lights flickering like distant stars come to earth. The river's song was constant, a soothing melody that carried the village's stories through the night and beyond. It whispered of time's endless flow, of days and nights woven together in a tapestry of light and shadow, rest and renewal. In the distance, the soft hoot of an owl echoed through the trees, a quiet sentinel watching over the sleeping village. Eldermead remained wrapped in the peaceful harmony of nature and community, a place where time moved gently, and every soul found rest in the embrace of the land. The golden light of late afternoon softened as shadows grew longer, draping Eldermead in a warm, amber glow. The village moved with a quiet grace, each step measured and calm. Birds settled into the branches above, their songs mellowing into gentle whistles, while the scent of baked bread and simmering herbs filled the air. Mira and Jonan worked side by side in the garden, their hands tending the earth with steady care. Each seed planted, each sprig pruned, was a small act of hope, nurturing life for the days to come. Nearby, children gathered wildflowers and loose bouquets, their laughter light and free, carried on the soft breeze. At the village square, Elder Tom sat beneath the linden tree, watching the slow dance of leaves above. Elder arranged her herbs with practiced ease, the lavender and thyme releasing their soothing fragrance into the cooling air. The river sparkled gently in the fading light, its steady song a constant companion to the village's quiet rhythm. As evening approached, windows glowed softly with candlelight. Families gathered for simple meals, sharing stories and warmth beneath wooden beams. The gentle crackle of hearth fires mingled with the murmur of voices, wrapping Eldermead in a comforting embrace. Night would soon return, bringing with it the familiar hush of rest and dreams. But for now, the village lingered in the peaceful pause between day and night, held tenderly in the balance of light and shadow, earth and sky. The river continued its endless journey, its gentle song carrying the village's stories and dreams downstream, blending them into the endless flow of time. And as the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the fields and meadows, Eldermead embraced the new day with calm hearts and steady hands, ready to live again in the slow, peaceful rhythm of earth, water, and sky. The village began to stir more fully as the morning sun climbed higher, its golden rays warming the cobblestones and thatched roofs of Eldermead. Farmers set out toward their fields, their tools resting lightly in calloused hands, ready to coax life from the fertile soil. The rich scent of turned earth mingled with the delicate fragrance of wildflowers blooming along the edges of the lanes. Children's laughter echoed softly from the edge of the woods, where they chased one another beneath the dappled shade of ancient oaks and beeches. Their bare feet pressed into the soft grass, and their voices rose in carefree song, weaving through the gentle rustling of leaves. In the village square, Elda's market stall blossomed with color, bundles of lavender, thyme, and chamomile arranged beside baskets of fresh apples and hand-woven linens. Villagers moved slowly among the stalls, exchanging goods and stories, their faces serene and content. By the riverbank, Jonan paused to dip his hands into the cool, flowing water, letting the steady current soothe his spirit. Nearby, Mira gathered ripe berries, savoring the sweet taste of summer in each plump fruit. The river's gentle murmur was a constant companion, carrying the village's timeless song onward through the valley. Elder Tom rested beneath the linden tree, his eyes closed as he breathed in the familiar scents of earth and herb. Around him, the village hummed with the quiet rhythm of simple life, each heartbeat syncing with the slow, steady flow of the river. As the day unfolded, the linden tree, standing tall and silent in the village square, swayed gently as the night breeze passed through its leaves, casting soft shadows on the cobblestones below. Beneath its branches, the echoes of old stories lingered, tales told by firelight, passed down through generations, now resting quietly in the hearts of those who would dream them once more. As dawn approached, a faint glow began to touch the horizon, promising the return of light and warmth. But for now, Eldermead remained suspended in the peaceful hush of night, cradled by the river's song and the eternal rhythm of earth and sky. As the first light of dawn stretched gently across the horizon, Elder Mead remained enveloped in a serene stillness. The soft hues of pink and gold began to paint the sky, casting a warm glow over the sleeping village. The river, ever steady and calm, caught the morning light and shimmered like a ribbon of liquid silver winding through the valley. The cottages, wrapped in the faint mist of early morning, seemed to hold their breath in anticipation of the new day. Smoke began to curl softly from chimneys as hearth fires were rekindled, filling the air with the comforting scent of wood smoke and baking bread. Birds stirred in the trees, their gentle songs weaving through the cool air like a lullaby welcoming the waking world. In the heart of Elder Mead, the villagers stirred slowly, their movements soft and unhurried. Mira stepped out onto the wooden porch of her cottage, inhaling the crisp morning air scented with rosemary and thyme. Nearby, Tom stretched his arms wide, his face illuminated by the soft sunlight filtering through the leaves. Elder Tom leaned heavily on his staff as he made his way toward the village square, where Elda was already arranging bundles of fresh herbs and wildflowers for the market. The gentle murmur of neighbors greeting one another filled the air, a quiet chorus of warmth and friendship. Held the quiet wisdom of many seasons. His hands rested on the arms of the chair, fingers tracing the grain of the wood as he breathed deeply, letting the calm of the night wash over him. The children of Elder Mead dreamed beneath straw mattresses and woolen quilts, their faces peaceful and untroubled. Their breaths rose and fell in gentle rhythm, matching the slow, steady heartbeat of the village itself. As the hours slipped by, the world outside faded into stillness. The only movement was the river's endless journey, flowing past stones and reeds, carrying the village's stories far beyond the hills and forests. It sang a quiet song of continuity and peace, a melody older than any memory, steady and sure. And so, beneath the canopy of stars and the watchful gaze of the moon, Elder Mead rested, safe, serene, and wrapped in the timeless embrace of night. The quiet hours of night stretched onward, the village of Elder Mead wrapped in a deep and gentle slumber. The soft rustle of leaves in the cool breeze was the only sound to break the stillness, a whispering chorus that seemed to cradle the homes and fields in a tender embrace. From the edge of the forest, a lone owl hooted softly, its call echoing through the trees before fading into silence. Near the riverbank, the water shimmered under the pale light of the moon, its steady flow carrying the secrets of the night far beyond the village's borders. Inside the cottages, dreams drifted like delicate clouds, woven from memories of sunlit fields, the laughter of children, and the quiet strength of community. Mothers hummed lullabies in their sleep, and fathers' brows smoothed as peaceful thoughts washed over them. Even the animals seemed to share in the calm. Horses rested deeply in their stalls, and the village dog lay curled near the hearth, breathing slow and steady. The evening deepened over Elder Mead, painting the sky in rich shades of indigo and violet. Stars began to twinkle one by one, like distant lanterns hung in the vast tapestry above. The village, now cloaked in shadow and soft candlelight, breathed a slow and steady rhythm, an ancient pulse shared by every stone, every tree, and every soul. The linden tree at the heart of the village stood tall and silent, its broad branches casting gentle patterns of shade and light across the square. Beneath its boughs, Elda carefully folded the last of her herbs, the fragrant lavender and thyme releasing their calming scent into the cool night air. She wrapped each bundle with a practiced hand, the soft rustle of fabric blending with the whisper of a passing breeze. Nearby, the baker's warm cottage glowed softly. Through the small windows, the flicker of firelight danced on the walls, and the sweet scent of baked bread lingered, promising comfort and sustenance to the coming dawn. A cat, curled in a perfect circle on the windowsill, purred softly as it slept, its breath slow and steady. Along the riverbank, the water flowed quietly, catching the moonlight like scattered silver coins. The gentle murmur of the stream mingled with the night sounds, the distant call of an owl, the rustling of leaves, and the soft chirp of crickets hidden among the grasses. Fireflies blinked in lazy arcs over the meadows, their glowing bodies like tiny stars come down to earth. Inside the cottages, the villagers settled for the night. Mira tucked Tom beneath warm blankets, brushing a stray curl from his forehead as his eyes fluttered closed. The soft crackle of the hearth fire was a lullaby, its amber glow painting comforting shadows on the wooden walls. Outside, the wind sighed softly, carrying the scent of pine and earth, soothing every restless thought. Elder Tom sat in his favorite chair, the worn wood molded to the shape of his body from years of use. His eyes, though heavy with sleep. And through it all, the river continued its endless journey, carrying the whispers of Elder Mead onward, soft, steady, and eternal. The afternoon sun dipped lower, casting a warm, golden glow over the village of Eldermead. Shadows stretched long across the fields and winding lanes, wrapping the earth in a gentle embrace. The soft murmur of life continued, a lullaby of simple sounds, the distant clink of a blacksmith's hammer, the low murmur of voices exchanging stories, and the steady rhythm of footsteps on worn cobblestones. Mira and Jonan paused their work by the garden, wiping sweat from their brows as a cool breeze swept through the village. The scent of fresh herbs and blooming wildflowers mingled with the earthy aroma of tilled soil, creating a calming perfume that settled deep into their lungs. Children rested beneath the shade of the linden tree, their laughter now quieter, softer, blending with the rustling leaves above. Elder Tom leaned against the sturdy trunk of the linden, watching as Elda carefully wrapped bundles of dried lavender and thyme, the fragrance drifting through the air like a gentle sigh. Nearby, the baker pulled fresh loaves of bread from her oven, the warm scent inviting and comforting. As the sun sank toward the horizon, the sky transformed into a canvas of soft pinks, purples, and blues. The river caught the fading light, its surface shimmering like molten silver as it flowed quietly past the village. Slowly, the sounds of the day began to fade. Doors closed gently, footsteps softened, and the village prepared to settle once more into the quiet embrace of night. The peasants of Eldermead, wrapped in the timeless rhythm of earth and sky, moved steadily toward rest, each heartbeat syncing with the calm pulse of the river's song. Along the riverbank, the water sparkled beneath the morning light, its steady song a soothing rhythm that carried through the valley. Fireflies from the previous night had disappeared, but the promise of a new day shimmered in their place. The peasants of Eldermead greeted the day with calm hearts and steady hands, their lives intertwined with the land and each other. And as the sun climbed higher, the village thrummed with quiet purpose, simple, serene, and whole. The fields beyond the village stretched wide and golden, bathed in the soft glow of morning. Farmers moved steadily among the rows of crops, their hands gentle yet sure as they tended to the earth. The scent of freshly turned soil mingled with the aroma of blooming herbs, filling the air with a promise of growth and abundance. Children played near the edge of the forest, their laughter light and free as they chased one another beneath the canopy of ancient trees. The leaves whispered softly overhead, stirred by a breeze that carried the faint fragrance of pine and wildflowers. By the river, Jonan paused to rest, dipping his fingers into the cool, flowing water. The current rippled around his hands, cool and steady, a soothing presence amidst the warm sun. Nearby, Mira gathered a basket of ripe berries, her movements slow and deliberate, savoring the peaceful rhythm of the day. In the village square, Elda's market stall was a splash of color, bundles of lavender, thyme, and rosemary neatly arranged beside baskets of freshly picked apples and hand-woven cloth. Villagers moved about with quiet smiles, exchanging goods and stories, their voices blending into a gentle hum that echoed through the streets. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows over the cobblestones, Elder Tom settled beneath the linden tree, his eyes closed as he breathed in the familiar sense of home. The village moved around him like a slow, steady song, each note a thread in the tapestry of life. The Milky Way stretching like a pale river across the darkness. The cool breeze carried the scent of pine and earth, mingling with the soft croon of night creatures awakening. Throughout the village, windows glowed warmly, but inside, the world was still. Even the animals rested, horses nestled in their stalls, chickens roost silently, and the village dog curled up beside the baker's hearth. The river, ever present, whispered softly as it wound its way past the sleeping homes. Its melody was a constant reminder that life, like water, flows gently onward, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of those who call this quiet village home. And so, beneath the watchful stars and the gentle moon, Eldermead rested, its heart beating steady and slow, cradled in the timeless embrace of earth, water, and sky. The soft glow of dawn began to creep over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pale pink and gold. As the first birds stirred and sang their morning songs, the village of Eldermead slowly awakened from its deep slumber. The air was crisp and filled with the gentle sense of dew-kissed grass and blooming wildflowers. In the heart of the village, smoke curled upward from chimneys as hearth fires were rekindled. The baker stirred her dough, the familiar scent of fresh bread promising comfort to all who would soon gather around their tables. Mira stepped outside her cottage, stretching as the warmth of the rising sun kissed her skin, while Tom eagerly chased a butterfly near the garden gate. Elder Tom leaned on his staff, making his way toward the village square, where Elda was already arranging fresh herbs and flowers for the day's market. The hum of gentle conversation filled the air as neighbors greeted one another, their voices soft and kind, weaving together the fabric of community. Weaving threads that would become warm cloaks and blankets. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, the light softened, bathing Eldermead in a golden glow. Shadows stretched long across the fields and lanes, and the air cooled just enough to bring relief from the day's warmth. Families gathered for supper, the sound of gentle conversation mingling with the clinking of wooden bowls and the crackling of fires. After the evening meal, the village slowly settled into quietude once more. Lamps were lit in windows, casting soft pools of light that flickered and danced like tiny stars against the darkening sky. The scent of wood smoke drifted lazily through the air, mingling with the delicate fragrance of blooming night flowers. In the hush of twilight, the river sang its lullaby, a gentle, timeless song that echoed through the valley and cradled the village in its embrace. Fireflies began to blink on and off in the meadows, their tiny lights floating like distant lanterns carried on the breeze. The peasants of Eldermead found their way to rest with slow, deliberate grace. Beds were made from straw and wool, blankets pulled snugly around tired bodies. Children clung briefly to the hands of their parents before surrendering to sleep, their breathing soft and even. Elda, seated once more beneath the linden tree, felt the cool night air settle around her shoulders as she wrapped her shawl tighter. Her eyes grew heavy, and soon, the gentle hum of the village carried her into dreams filled with fields of golden grain and starry skies. Elder Tom returned to his cottage, his footsteps slow but steady. By the firelight, he settled into his favorite chair, the quiet crackle of embers soothing in the stillness. His mind wandered through memories of long-ago harvests, the faces of friends and family illuminated by lantern light, the warmth of hands held in hard times and good. Outside, the night deepened. The sky was a vast canvas of twinkling stars. Thyme and sage filled the air with their calming fragrance. She knelt among the soil, her fingers tracing the earth as she planted young seedlings, nurturing life with patient care. Around her, bees flitted from flower to flower, their soft buzzing a constant, soothing presence. Not far away, Jonan carried a basket filled with freshly gathered eggs, carefully balancing the fragile treasure as he made his way toward the village square. Along the path, he paused to greet an elderly woman carrying a bundle of dried herbs. Their smiles were warm and familiar, a reflection of the strong bonds woven between the villagers through years of shared labor and simple joys. The children played quietly near the well, their laughter light and unhurried, blending seamlessly into the soft sounds of the countryside. They chased butterflies, their bare feet brushing the cool grass, their voices a gentle echo of innocence and freedom. Elder Tom, leaning on his sturdy wooden staff, made his slow way toward the linden tree that stood proudly at the village center. He paused beneath its broad branches, feeling the rough bark beneath his hand and watching as sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the cobblestones. Nearby, Elder arranged bundles of lavender and thyme on a wooden table, preparing them for the afternoon market. The river that traced a graceful arc around Eldermead shimmered under the sun's embrace. Its waters flowed steadily, carrying with them stories from distant lands and ancient times. The gentle babble of the stream was a constant, comforting presence for the villagers, a reminder of nature's steady, unyielding rhythm. Throughout the day, the village moved in quiet harmony. The blacksmith's hammer rang out in measured beats, shaping iron with skilled hands. The baker tended to her ovens, the warm scent of bread wafting through the air, inviting smiles and contentment. Women spun wool by the hearth, their fingers deft and sure. The village square slowly filled with soft morning light as neighbors gathered to share greetings and news. The scent of fresh bread wafted from the baker's shop, mingling with the earthy aroma of harvested herbs and the sweet fragrance of blooming wildflowers. Children played quietly near the well, their laughter a gentle melody woven into the morning air. Elder arranged bundles of dried lavender and thyme on a wooden table, her hands skilled and steady as she prepared for the day's market. Elder Tom sat nearby, his eyes twinkling beneath bushy brows as he shared stories of seasons past with anyone who would listen. Mira and Jonan worked side by side in the garden, planting seeds and tending to the soil with care and patience. Each movement was deliberate, a quiet conversation between the earth and those who nurtured it. The river beside them sparkled under the sun, its song constant and comforting, a reminder of the flow of time and life. As the day wore on, the village moved with a slow, steady rhythm, simple, peaceful, and unhurried. The peasants of Eldermead embraced their work with gratitude, their hearts connected to the land and to one another. And when evening came, the village would once again fold into the gentle hush of night, carrying the promise of rest and renewal for all who called this place home. As the day unfolded in Eldermead, the soft light of morning poured over the rolling hills, spilling into the valleys where the villagers went about their quiet lives. The peaceful hum of the countryside blended with the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of the river, creating a natural symphony that comforted every heart in the village. Myra's garden was a tapestry of colors and scents. Delicate wildflowers swayed lazily in the gentle breeze, and herbs like rosemary. As the morning unfolded, the village of Eldermead began to stir with gentle movements and soft sounds. Roosters crowed from distant farms, signaling the start of a new day, while the hum of bees buzzed lazily among the blossoming wildflowers at the meadow's edge. The warm sun climbed slowly into the sky, casting golden light over the dew-kissed fields. Mira stepped outside her cottage, breathing in the crisp air, the scent of fresh earth and blooming herbs filling her lungs. She smiled as she watched Tom chasing after a small butterfly near the garden gate, his laughter light and carefree. Around them, the village came alive slowly, doors opening, the clatter of wooden shoes on cobblestone, and the soft murmur of neighbors greeting one another. Elder Tom made his way toward the village square, leaning on his staff, his eyes bright with the knowledge of many seasons past. At the linden tree, he paused to greet Elda, who was already setting out fresh herbs and flowers for the day's market. The rhythm of life, steady and unhurried, flowed through the streets and fields. Jonan carried a basket of freshly gathered eggs from the henhouse, nodding a quiet hello to those he passed. The river shimmered nearby, its waters sparkling under the sun's warm embrace, whispering ancient secrets as it wound its way through the valley. The peasants of Eldermead embraced the new day with gratitude and calm, their hearts and hands working in harmony with the land. And beneath it all, the memory of the peaceful night lingered, a soft, steady beat that would carry them forward until the next twilight called them back to rest. A soothing melody that wrapped the village in a blanket of tranquility. Fireflies flickered lazily among the reeds, their tiny lights pulsing like the heartbeat of the night itself. Owls hooted softly from the forest's edge, their voices a gentle reminder of the wild world beyond the cultivated fields. As the night deepened, the village seemed to breathe in unison, a single organism resting in harmony with the earth. Time slowed to a hush, and all worries dissolved into the embrace of darkness and dreams. Here, in this simple village by the river, the peasants slept on, safe, calm, and cradled by the endless song of the night. As dawn approached, a subtle light began to seep through the curtains, casting a gentle glow upon the sleeping village. The soft chirping of morning birds stirred the air, mingling with the faint rustle of leaves as the wind whispered its awakening song. Slowly, the world of Eldermead began to shift from the embrace of night to the promise of a new day. The first rays of sunlight warmed the rooftops, turning the thatch golden and bright. Smoke rose in delicate spirals from chimneys as fires were rekindled, ready to cook the morning meal. The villagers stirred, their eyes opening to the familiar sights and sounds of their peaceful home. Mira rose quietly, stepping barefoot onto the cool wooden floor of her cottage. She smiled softly as she listened to the hum of life outside, feeling the calm strength of the earth beneath her feet. Tom, still wrapped in blankets, dreamed on, his breath even and slow. The river shimmered in the early light, its waters sparkling as they flowed steadily past the village. The promise of the day ahead mingled with the lingering calm of the night, a balance held only in moments such as these. And so, as Eldamide awoke, the peace of the night remained, a gentle thread woven into the fabric of the day, a reminder of rest, renewal, and the quiet beauty of simple life. They were not told aloud, but felt, ancient, wordless tales of belonging and breath, of roots growing deeper with every night that passed in stillness. Down by the water's edge, where the reeds leaned close and the pebbles lay smooth by centuries of current, the river carried the village's slumber forward. It passed beneath the moonlight, past the dreams of every soul in Eldamide, winding farther into the night, until it disappeared beyond the bend, its song continuing on for those who listened with their hearts. And as night reached its deepest hour, when even the stars seemed to draw their breath in stillness, Eldamide remained wrapped in peace, unmoved, undisturbed, untouched. Sleep held all. Beneath the vast canopy of stars, the village of Eldamide lay cradled in a serene silence that spoke of centuries of quiet nights and gentle dreams. The cottages, small and humble, stood side by side like old friends, their windows softly glowing with the warmth of flickering candlelight. The scent of wood smoke mingled with the earthy fragrance of damp soil and blooming wildflowers, carried softly on the night breeze. Along the winding cobblestone paths, shadows played softly, stretching long and slow as the moonlight brushed over worn doorsteps and weathered wooden fences. Somewhere in the distance, the faint toll of the village bell marked the passing hours, not with urgency, but with the calm rhythm of time's gentle passage. Inside the homes, the peasants rested deeply, their breathing steady and slow. Mothers rocked infants in quiet corners, their lullabies blending with the soft rustling of leaves outside. Fathers sat in stillness, hands folded, eyes closed, dreams weaving through their thoughts like delicate threads of light. Children lay nestled in beds of straw and wool, their minds adrift on the currents of peaceful sleep. The river that curved gracefully around Eldamide murmured its age-old song. A velvet hush broken only by the steady rhythm of the river and the occasional sigh of wind passing through tall grass. The cottages, lined in uneven rows like stitched seams on a patchwork quilt, held their warmth, glowing softly with the memory of hearth fires now reduced to glowing embers. In one small home near the mill, an old dog shifted in its sleep, ears twitching at some distant sound, perhaps the creak of a tree, or the soft hoot of an owl from the edge of the forest. But it did not wake. The creature simply turned in its blanket, tail thumping once before stillness returned. Overhead, clouds drifted slowly across the moon, casting gentle shadows that moved like drifting sails over rooftops and barns. The fields beyond the village shimmered faintly with dew, every blade of grass kissed by silver. Beneath a crooked fence post, a hedgehog nestled into a burrow, its breathing light and quick, hidden from the chill by the earth's soft shelter. The bell tower above the chapel, so quiet during the day, stood as a silent sentinel. Its bell no longer rang through the night, not since the villagers had asked the priest to let sleep come without the hour's interruption. Instead, it stood still and hollow, filled with silence, holding space for dreams. Inside the largest cottage at the village's center, 3 generations slept under one roof. The grandparents beneath a heavy patchwork quilt in the room by the stove, their soft snoring a duet of age and peace. The parents in the loft above, one hand resting on the other's back even in slumber. And the children, 2 boys and a girl, tangled together on a straw-stuffed mattress on the floor, sharing warmth, limbs resting gently across each other. Not a word had been spoken in Eldamide for hours now. But still, the night was full of stories. They whispered through the rafters, woven into the wind. They drifted down from the stars, settled into the folds of curtains, pressed softly against closed eyelids. He walked an endless golden field, each stalk of wheat taller than his head, the air thick with the hum of bees and birdsong. His feet never tired, and the sun above never scorched, only warmed. He smiled, still asleep, his hands gently curled as if brushing through stalks that weren't really there. Mirra dreamed too. In her sleep, she returned to a childhood memory, lying in the tall grasses beyond the orchard, watching clouds drift lazily across the sky, her fingers weaving dandelion stems into rings and crowns. In the distance, she heard the steady rhythm of her mother's voice singing, the melody timeless and low. That same tune, faint and almost imagined, seemed to drift through the window in real life now, though the only singer was the wind passing through wildflowers outside. Above the village, on the tallest hill where wild sheep grazed during the warmer months, a stone shrine stood quiet and cold. Worn smooth by rain and time, it faced east, toward the rising sun. Ivy wrapped its base like a blanket, and at its foot, a few peasant children had left small bundles of flowers earlier that day. Even now, under moonlight, they looked vibrant, as though left only minutes ago. No one came up the hill at this hour, and yet it didn't feel empty. It felt held, watched over, in a way only such ancient places can be. And still, Eldermead slept. The river kept its song, weaving gently past the stones and willows, always steady, always soft. It asked nothing of the village, only that it listened. And it did. Every shuttered home, every patch of earth, every grain of sand at the riverbank seemed to hum with its tune. The night held firm, deep and unwavering. And in that perfect stillness, the kind that blankets both land and heart, the peasants of Eldermead remained adrift in rest, each one part of a living tapestry stitched from earth, water, wind, and dreams. As the hours wore on, the night wrapped itself more tightly around the village. The rosemary and thyme breathed softly in the dark, releasing their fragrance to the wind in slow, patient pulses. And still, the river flowed. It was the only sound that moved freely through the village, gentle, eternal, whispering to stones and roots, humming to the sleeping trees. It carried no haste, no message, only calm. Its music was older than any name spoken in Eldermead, and it would continue long after every lamp had gone out, every field fallen still. The night lingered, and in the quiet embrace of that deep, unbroken silence, the peasants of Eldermead lay safe, suspended in sleep, tucked into dreams as old as the earth itself, and just as peaceful. Far beyond the last thatched rooftops of Eldermead, where the meadows gave way to rolling hills covered in heather and wild fern, the night sky stretched vast and still. The stars blinked gently above, scattered like soft echoes of forgotten stories, and the moon hung low, casting a milky glow across the valley floor. Down in the village, nothing stirred. Even the wind had fallen asleep. The baker's old wooden sign creaked slightly on its rusted hinge, barely swaying in the faintest draft. Inside, sacks of flour stood stacked neatly along the walls, their cotton cloth sides softening in the humid quiet. A bowl of dough, set beneath a cloth for the morning's first rise, sat untouched, its yeast working slowly and silently as the hours passed. In the small stable near the stream, a single lantern burned low. The flame flickered but held steady, casting long shadows across the hay-covered floor. Horses shifted in their sleep, letting out deep, slow breaths that sounded like sighs of contentment. A lamb, recently born, lay nestled beside its mother, its tiny body rising and falling in the rhythm of innocent dreams. Back in the cottages, even the dreams had deepened. Jonan, now resting on a pile of soft linens by his window, felt a breeze touch his face as he slept. In his dream, the village rested in this rhythm, in this ancient lullaby. And the stars above, as they had always done, kept their quiet watch. As midnight passed, a deeper stillness fell upon the land, settling over Eldermead like a thick, comforting quilt. Not a single sound broke the calm, not the flap of a bird's wing, nor the creak of a shutter. The entire village had surrendered to rest, wrapped in the warmth of quiet and time. Inside the granary, the old beams groaned gently as they cooled in the night air. Mice, long since finished with their nighttime scurrying, nestled into hidden corners of straw. Even the moonlight filtering through the high slits of the stone walls moved slowly, as though it too was reluctant to disturb the peace. In the tiny schoolhouse beside the chapel, rows of hand-carved benches stood empty and still. Chalk dust lingered in the air from the day's lessons, caught in soft motes of moonlight. On the teacher's desk, a simple candle, burned low and long, had gone cold. The silence was deep and respectful, as if the room itself understood the need for pause. By the stream, a wooden cart sat abandoned near the path, half filled with sacks of grain and linen. Its wheel had tilted slightly in the soft earth, yet no one came to move it. There was no rush here, no urgency, only the flow of life between one quiet moment and the next. Elder Tom, now asleep in his chair near the hearth, stirred only once to adjust the woolen blanket draped over his knees. The fire had dwindled to embers, its glow flickering like the last heartbeat of a song. He smiled faintly in his sleep, his dreams wandering through harvest fields and evening dances long past. His cane rested beside him, untouched, a quiet companion in the dark. In Myra's cottage, the girl's cat lay stretched along the windowsill, its tail curled in a lazy arc outside. The garden slept beneath a thin silver mist, each blade of grass glistening with dew that had begun to gather in the colder hours. Save for the soft ticking of a handmade clock on the mantel, they had spent a lifetime here, beneath this thatched roof, raising children, baking bread, tending gardens, and now, in the stillness of night, they rested, hand in hand, their fingers loosely intertwined even in sleep. Outside, the moon reached its highest point in the sky, casting its pale glow over the rooftops and stone walls. The village of Eldermead, tucked deep within its valley, seemed untouched by time, preserved in calm, in quiet, in the ancient rhythm of life moving gently forward. Beyond the village square, the path that led to the hills curved softly through the grass, where fireflies floated in slow spirals above the earth. Their tiny lights blinked in and out like a silent language, an unseen poetry spoken only at night. Owls called in the trees, not as warnings or alarms, but simply because the night was theirs, and they belonged to it. Along the river, willows dipped their slender branches into the dark water, trailing their tips like fingers across a calm surface. The river glided past without haste, murmuring to the stones and reeds, carrying the stories of Eldermead through the sleeping countryside, stories of long days, quiet laughter, slow meals, and deep rest. Somewhere in the forest, a fox curled into its den, safe beneath a tangle of roots. In a hollow above, a doe and her fawn stood in the stillness before lying gently in the soft grass. Even the wind seemed to hush its breath as it passed through the branches, as if afraid to disturb the sacred stillness. And in every home, the peasants dreamed. They dreamed of gentle things, of harvest feasts and warm loaves, of cool river stones and flickering candles, of hands in soil and laughter in the fields. Dreams stitched from memory and rhythm, from the softness of wool and the glow of sun-warmed walls. Dreams that mirrored the lives they lived, simple and whole. Their branches heavy with summer's promise. The apples were not yet ripe, but the leaves whispered their secrets to the wind, soft wishes and stories, soaked in starlight. An old owl perched high on a gnarled limb, blinking slowly, watching the fields below as if it had seen this village dream 1,000 nights before. Farther down the lane, two brothers lay beneath a thin blanket in the hayloft, the scent of dried grass and warm wood surrounding them. One spoke sleepily of the festival coming soon, the music, the laughter, the lanterns floating above the river. But his words soon faded, overcome by the weight of night, and their breathing fell into rhythm with the heartbeat of the barn itself. The village well stood silent now, its water still and deep. A single frog croaked from the edge, and then the sound vanished into stillness. Time in Eldermead did not march forward in great leaps. It moved gently, like a leaf on the surface of the river, drifting, circling, never rushed. Back at the linden tree in the square, Elda stirred slightly in her sleep. A soft smile touched the corners of her mouth as the shawl slipped from her shoulders. A dream was blooming in her mind, of harvest dances under candlelit skies, of firelight flickering on happy faces, of her own youth lived slowly, beautifully, in this very village. The wind shifted slightly, rustling the wheat fields just beyond the village. The sound was soft as a sigh, brushing over rooftops, fluttering curtains, and stirring slumbering thoughts. In each home, in each bed, the peasants of Eldermead lay cradled by the hush of night. And still the stars burned on, high and far, unchanged and watching. In the farthest cottage at the edge of the fields, where the soil met the first stones of the wooded hill, an old couple lay side by side, their breaths moving as one. The quiet creak of their wooden bed was the only sound within the room. Silence. She paused only once to glance out the window, where stars glimmered like scattered seeds. Back at the square, the linden tree stood motionless in the soft night air. Beneath it, Elda had fallen asleep in her chair, a shawl wrapped around her shoulders and her head tilted gently forward. Her knitting lay in her lap, forgotten. A stray cat brushed against her leg, then curled up beside her, purring quietly. The river hummed its endless lullaby. Its waters moved with purpose but never haste, winding past mossy stones and sleepy willows. Fireflies blinked in the grass like living embers, drifting slowly through the stillness. Beyond the village fields, in the meadows and woods, foxes tucked themselves into dens, and deer lay nestled in tall grass. The forest, too, breathed slowly now, its branches swaying with the steady rhythm of night. And high above it all, the sky held its watch. In Eldamead, dreams had already begun, soft, slow dreams full of sun-warmed earth and wind-blown grain, of laughter echoing down dusty paths and cool water splashing over bare feet. And so the night deepened, and the whispers of the peasant village faded into the hush of sleep. Somewhere in the heart of Eldamead, a single candle still glowed from the window of a small cottage near the orchard. The flame flickered gently as a breeze passed through the open shutters, rustling the dried herbs that hung from the beams above. Inside, the soft murmur of a lullaby filled the space, old and familiar, sung by a mother with a voice like warm wool. She cradled her newborn in her arms, swaying gently in a wooden rocking chair that creaked with each slow movement. The child's eyes fluttered, barely open, caught between waking and sleep. The lullaby, sung in the dialect passed down through generations, was not just a melody, it was a memory of peace, stitched into every line and every breath. Out in the orchard, the fruit trees stood quietly in rows. A night bird sang from the edge of the forest, its call long and low, and then another answered from farther away. Inside the cottages, candles flickered behind small windows. A grandfather tuned a wooden flute by firelight. A young girl brushed her sister's hair as they sat on a woven rug by the hearth. And outside, under the endless sky, the village continued to breathe, slowly, gently, as it had for generations. The river, never in a hurry, whispered softly as it passed the edges of Eldamead, carrying stories of other lands and faraway storms. But here, in this village folded between fields and woods, only peace remained. The night deepened. The moon rose slowly above the treetops, casting a pale, silvery glow across the village roofs. The stone paths shimmered faintly in the moonlight, and the distant hills looked like soft blankets of shadow resting under the stars. All around Eldamead, the world had quieted into stillness, not the absence of sound, but the presence of peace. Inside the cottages, families settled beneath thick wool blankets. Fires burned low in the hearths, their light dancing softly on timber beams and earthen walls. Mira tucked Tom into bed, brushing a curl from his forehead and whispering, "Sleep well, little one." The boy yawned, turning toward the window where the moon peeked through the curtains, his fingers still curled around a smooth stone he'd found by the brook. In the next cottage, the baker, Oldrin, sat by the fire sipping warm milk, his loyal dog curled at his feet. The scent of flour and toasted grain clung to his clothes. Tomorrow would bring another sunrise, another batch of bread, but for now he listened to the quiet crackle of the fire and the distant hoot of an owl. Near the edge of the village, a young woman named Eleonora sat at her loom, weaving slowly by candlelight. Her hands moved with practiced ease, guided by memory and rhythm. With each pass of the shuttle, the soft threads came together, linen, wool, story. And so, Eldamead welcomed the dawn once more, its heart steady, its spirit calm, ready to live again in harmony with earth, water, and sky. The gentle light spilled over the fields and rooftops, promising new beginnings and quiet moments yet to come. As the village stirred to life once again, the river's steady song continued to weave through the air, a timeless melody of peace, resilience, and the enduring beauty of simple days. Wrapped in this gentle rhythm, Eldamead rested easy, cradled by the embrace of nature and the warmth of its people, ready to face whatever the next day would bring. The end.